Good afternoon, fellow Plexers. Today we're going to help a gentleman named Tom get his movie library scanned in properly for the first time. He's a new Plex user and he's running into some trouble. So Tom posted this screenshot to a Facebook group and we can immediately see what's going on. He's using all caps for media libraries and his movie files are all lumped in one master folder without the year associated with it. Some of this might scan in, some of it might not, but I also suspect that he's having trouble pointing his first movie library at the right folder. So we're going to straighten all of that out. And I work off from two screens, even though you only see one of them. So I want to start off with Plex's main naming document. Naming and organizing your movie folders. Plex starts off with an example of having a master media directory that they call media. Now, if this was for someone interested in Docker containers with Plex running, it should all be lowercase with no spaces. With a Windows server, this capitalization of media is fine, but you really don't want to have it all caps. So in your master media folder, I would caution you to have these as library sort folders and not your actual library folders. And let me bring my Plex server into it and I'll show you why I suggest the library sort folders. It's not often that someone would just want one movie library or one TV show library. You might want to break media out, especially if you share with friends and family. So it's very typical for someone to have two TV show libraries, one with all the kids' cartoons in it and one with all the regular TV shows. It's typical for people to have multiple movie libraries too. Definitely a 4K one, because a lot of people aren't trying to share 4K with family and friends, and then a default one. Do not use extra movie libraries as kind of a genre short. There's too many easy ways to create collections or to search for a specific genre in Plex. You don't need to do that. I think unlike content should get its own movie library. I have a concert library. I have a 4K library. I have a performing arts library with stage shows and ballets and operas and that kind of stuff. I have a stand-up library. And I have a kids movie library for very young type of content, think 2 to 6. And then even an other video library, you might want multiple ones of those. If you have a lot of home movies that have been converted, you might want to do a video library for a certain event or a certain decade or even a certain year. Maybe it's mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary and you've got all kinds of content. You might want to break that out from little Millie's birthday parties over the years. So if you give yourself the sort folders, you give yourself options to keep things nested and not spread out sideways. So let's slide down and Plex gives some examples of how to name a movie. Now, all these movie names come from either IMDb or tmdb, the Internet Movie Database or the movie database. And each movie will be named the same way in each database. So the basic structure is, well, let's pretend I have a sort folder above that just says movie. And then I have the next folder might say movie or movies. And inside the actual library folder, I have another folder for the movie named after the movie itself. And that's where we're going to bring in IMDb. Now, 2012 is an example of one of Tom's file names, but we'll do Avatar. So we're going to search by Avatar, and if you see anything in a TV show listing, it's not for a movie library. So you'd want to click on movies, and obviously here's our Avatar. This is the most basic name for both the folder and the file name. So your folder would be Avatar space with 2009 in parentheses, and inside that folder would be a movie file name named exactly the same .mp4 or mkv. You can do more advanced naming schemes, but this is the most basic. And then subtitles, which we aren't going to get into in this video, follow the same format. A default subtitle has this extension, while the rest of the file name matches what the movie's name. If you have a forced subtitle, it would be, for English, it would be EN or ENG, either the 2-letter or the 3-letter code is fine, .force.srt. If you have a hearing impaired that's in the SRT format, like we're talking about, it would be the extension .eng or .en, .sdh, .srt. And I have to apologize, I have to keep pausing the video on my end so I don't cough too much. I'm suffering from seasonal allergies this spring and summer for the first time in my life. So if we slide down further, Plex tells us we can also put the database number, either database number, into both the folder name and the file name, and this makes for a can't miss match. But it has to be formatted exactly the same as you see here. Everything's in curly-Q brackets, and you'll notice there's no underscores, there's no periods replacing a natural space. Periods will come into this in a later part of the video, but what you see is what you get. Every written example is like this by Plex. So with a natural space, then you have in curly-Q brackets in lowercase either IMDb or tmdb with the associated database number. You get this from the URL window, and you get this from the URL window too. And it makes for a can't miss file name. If we slide down further, we're going to use this as we rename some dummy files as Tom has it. Tom has listed here. You'll see there's a 5th element full screen and a 5th element widescreen. I'm going to use these two as a few examples to show you how to use the addition tag feature. And again, this is like the database ID. In curly-Q brackets, no extra spaces. It's addition dash whatever you want the addition to be called. So we could call this widescreen or WS, and we could call this full screen or FS or whatever Tom or anyone else wants to do to differentiate it. Now these are more official additions, but you can have an unofficial addition if you wanted to mix your 4K content into your main movie library. Sorry, if you wanted to mix your 4K movies into your main movie library, you can use this feature and simply put 4K here or 2160p. And if you had the same movie in 1080p, you could just name it appropriately, put both files in the same folder. Plex will scan them in separately, and it'll put whatever's in this section beneath it. So basically, you can't go wrong manually going to either database and just typing in a movie. We'll use Tom's example that I'm going to rename shortly, and you can just copy and paste from here just like you could from the movie database. It's really not difficult to do this manually. So if we slide down and you have a split file where maybe the movie was in 2 parts, everything's the same. The folder's the same, and the first part's the same except for there's a space dash space. Plex uses this as an official separator between parts of the file name. It's used in TV show episode files, and it's used in more complex movie file names. This is what can be replaced with a period, but you can't replace a natural space with a period. So this is where a period comes in, and it comes in from another document. So we have 2 more documents to get through. This is the multiple edition document that's been around for a while. And this is in case you wanted, starting with a wrong document. Multiple edition movies. Or did I open up the same thing twice instead of what I wanted? Yes, I did. My mistake. This is what I wanted, multiple versions to go to next. So this is a way to keep multiple versions on your server under one poster, and that way if you have a user whose client device isn't capable of playing a 4K or a 1080p file because maybe their Wi-Fi, maybe they're stuck on 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and they're using the oldest Roku stick that'll still run Plex, by having a second copy at a lower resolution named this way, Plex will scan them both in, and then the appropriate version in most cases will play on the appropriate device. Most of us don't need to do this, but again, it keeps showing the space as a way to use an official separator to differentiate media. And this is going to be part of the next document we're going to be using. Can you use editions and versions at the same time? And the answer is yes. So let's switch to the multiple edition document. Now this is what I already mentioned about if Tom wanted to have a widescreen edition and have it displayed as a separate poster. This is what it's all about. And this is a fairly recent addition within the last year or so. So it shows the director's cut in the curly Q brackets, no spaces between the dash. And if we slide down, this is the first document where Plex shows a period replacing that space dash space. I don't think Plex mentions that any place in print, but the example is here. And again, that period cannot replace a natural space, and an underscore does not belong here. So Plex has lots of documents, and you can always click at articles, and this is the page you should bookmark, because just like we've covered everything for a movie library, if we slide down far enough, there's a Plex Bible for TV shows too. And this is the main one. So, okay, let's move on and use some examples. All right, so we'll work out of the movie database. And what do I have going on here? Let me show you my Plex movie library first. This is running on a Synology NAS. And I've also pointed a new test unraid server to a couple libraries here, and that's what we'll use when we eventually scan media in. So if I go to my main Plex directory, you see I've got a sort folder for every type of library. And we'll ignore this one. We pretend that won't even exist. Those in the know will simply know. And please don't comment on this in the Facebook group, because we have a strict no piracy rule. So inside my movie sort folder are my individual library folders. This is just some old media I haven't processed yet because it's not in any database. This is my concert library, my documentary movie library. I'm not DVRing any movies through Plex, but if I wanted to, this is where they'd go. My kids movie library, my main movie library, my 4K movie library I don't share with my friends or family. It's small. My performing arts movie library, and a stand-up. And today we'll be using this test folder, so I can just keep that open. So I have a media folder on my computer, and in it I just have some folders prepped. Today we're going to be using this. And you'll see all of these file sizes are small. They're all the same video. It's just a short video that I'll play now. Plexers, Test 1 2 3. Test 1 2 3. So I can't get in trouble for a copyright strike by using media that has nothing to do with how we're going to name it. And you'll see that I've already named everything properly. Well, not properly, but as Tom has it. So I'm going to pick out a couple to fix. So what we're going to do is just consult the database. Let's see, I have to make this just big enough where I can see the search icon. All right, so we'll see that this is not a match. It's the fifth element, 1997, and Tom has fifth element. So what we're going to do is we're just going to rename this, and manually I'm going to give it an addition tag. And while I've got it in the edit mode, I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to create a folder and name the folder this way. Now, I don't need to add the tmdb number to it, but I could. But because I have this as a Chrome app, I can't get to it easy. So we're going to do a few of these movies in Filebot that'll add it automatically to show Tom how fast he can process things. But you've got to be very careful and break it down into small batches, because the way some of these files are named, you might pick the wrong movie. Like, I named this one wrong. I had my shift key. Tom has the first Alien movie named as Alien 1, and that's not in the database that way. So let's rename this one Full Screen. And now we're going to cut those two and paste it into the proper movie folder. So let me leave Alien. I want to see how Filebot treats that. And I'm going to pick Excalibur to manually rename. Part of the problem using a simple name like this is I don't know which of these two movies Tom actually has. Does he have the 1981 movie with Helen Mirren? I didn't know she was in this. I love Helen Mirren. Or does he have the 1991 with people I've never heard about? So I doubt it's this one. So we'll just decide it's this. Now, if I knew this was a 1080p copy and I wanted to be able to look at my movies later on, I could use that space trick that Plex shows us for multiple versions and do that. I could even do 5.1 CH for 5.1 audio. I could do a lot of things here, and Plex is going to ignore anything past this. I could also put in an addition, or I could put in the database number. Let's pretend that's the database number. It's not, but that makes for an absolute can't miss match by putting the database number in. So I don't want all of this in the folder. I only want this. I wonder how pronounced all my stop and starts are for when I have to cough. All right, so let's do Avatar next. Is that 2009? I can't remember. 2009. So again, it's just a copy and paste, and you could copy and paste it from IMDb just as well. So we'll create the folder, and we'll rename this. We're going to give this a special edition. That's too much, so we'll call it Tom's version just to have a little fun. Okay, so these three are prepped, all manually. We'll cut them. No, wrong directory, I don't need that screenshot one anymore. And we'll paste them into the text movie library. Okay, and this is where the big help is going to be for Tom, setting up his first library properly. So when you're at your server, now I have multiple servers running. I have my original one on the Synology NAS that I transferred to my newer Synology NAS to fix all my dumb mistakes that I started out with 4 years ago. And I've recently gotten interested in building an unraid setup on an Intel NUC while leaving my files on the Synology NAS, and I just finished the first phase of that project, and that's finishing scanning some media in. So this is how you change between multiple servers, and you see they all have remote access set up. So I'm going to pick the unraid one, and you just have to slide down to libraries under manage, and you'll see that I have 3 libraries, a movies 4K, and a music mixtape, and the movie library is still detecting intros. Oh, nope, it finished. My regular Plex library is scanning some music at the moment. So you simply click Add Library, and we're going to add a movie library, and I'm going to call it Movies-Test. Click Next. Browse for media folders, and because I'm on the unraid server, I know I'm looking for the reference, the linked reference of movies, and when I click on it, it opens up the viewer for all my individual movie libraries. I'll simply hit test, and you have to wait until this site populates with your movies. If you've got 5,000 movies in your collection, it'll take longer to populate. Once it does, you'll see how it says /movies/test. I'm simply going to click add, and instead of adding libraries, I'm going to go into advanced because I like collections, but I only want a collection created if there's at least 2 movies. And with a new Plex server installed, just leave everything alone. Leave the Plex movie scanner, leave the Plex movie agent. Don't touch anything besides this one option. Minimum automatic collection size is disabled by default. I want Plex to create a collection automatically if there's at least 2 movies on my server. And then if I don't want to keep the collection, I'll delete it manually. Some people don't want any created, so you leave this as disabled. Once I add the library, Plex is going to start scanning. It did it fast because the files were so small. But now if I click on this test movie library, you see they're all in here. And you'll see at the bottom, the edition tag picked up Tom's version like I added. And on both the Fifth Element copies, it created one with a tag of full screen and one with a tag of widescreen. So if I click into it, you'll see the widescreen here. And of course, it pulls all the proper metadata, and it pulled them incredibly fast. So it's really easy to get things scanned into Plex as long as it's formatted right and as long as you know how to point the library correctly. These 3 dots allow me to scan my library manually, or I can manage it here, and if I click Edit, sorry, I was stifling a cough. If I click edit there, well, that's Tom chiming in on Facebook now. That's appropriate. I can go back and have a second bite at these options. So it's very easy. If you had subtitles like we did see briefly in one of the support documents, local subtitles would show up here. So what else do we want to cover here? I had to scan this library manually. A Linux server can only have up to 8,000 something number of individual folders in one share. Anything over that, you have to make adjustments for something called the IO Notify whatever it is, because Linux server uses the IO Notify service to automatically scan for media. So let me see, I'm going to get lost here because I wasn't thinking about it beforehand. Is it in general? Library, okay. So the library's option under settings allows you to scan your library automatically. As long as you're not running Linux and you don't have a huge library, you can just set this, and whenever you add media, Plex will scan it in. You don't want to set this if you're using portable storage, because if a drive accidentally became unplugged, Plex would scan the library immediately and remove.
You have an informational message.
Sorry, my phone's not silenced. It would remove everything in the library, and then once you plugged it back in, it'd have to scan it all in again. And if you had created some custom collections or created custom posters, you would lose all that. So with a large Linux library or with portable storage, you may want to just scan manually, or you may want to scan it periodically or on a timed basis. Actually, I want mine to scan every 2 hours. This is a new server. And you also do not want to empty the trash automatically if you're using portable storage. Now, with secure storage on a NAS, if I could scan my libraries automatically, I would. But I definitely want empty trash after each scan, because I can't accidentally unplug NAS drives in a RAID format. That's just not possible. So that's basically it. Let us now switch to a brief demo of Filebot, and we'll add the 3 remaining movies. Okay, so I'm going to back up. Well, let me just open Filebot first. Because I use custom expressions that looks for media characteristics to add to the file name, you would need MediaInfo installed alongside this to make my special edition or my special expressions work. The way Filebot has always worked is you could simply click on match and choose what you wanted, but now it comes with its own built-in additions or expressions. I'm mixing up expressions and additions. If I click here, you see all my custom ones. If I hold down the Shift key, you'll see these 4 options: organize movies for Plex and organize episodes for Plex. They add the database number by default, while also creating structure and moving the results to a media folder on whatever system you're running it on. So if you're running Plex on a Windows PC and you've named your media folder capital M, lowercase the rest, Filebot could move the renamed files directly into the folder, and then you simply scan with Plex. I don't like that because I like to look things over good and then just copy things manually. It's easy to rename 50 movies at once and then kind of go through it and check things and then highlight 50 movies to copy where you want them. Oh, so on Windows, we would have wanted to drag that folder in. With Elementary OS, I can right-click, choose Open In, and choose Filebot. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways. First, the original way, I'll click on Match and ignore the top part where it says Episode Mode. and move down to movie mode and simply pick the movie database. Plex wants to know the name of the movie. So 2012 is as good a guess as any. And now for Braveheart, it wants to make sure we're picking the right Braveheart. I assume Tom means the 1995 one, so we'll select that. And it handled the Alien one all by itself. So this is going to name the movies this way. So if I just click rename and get rid of Filebot and go into my folder, it's renamed movies properly, but there's no folder structure. So let me open up another window to Media. Here's the folder that Plex will, or Filebot will move things to if I use the new default expression. So first off, I'm not going to show that. I'll show that last. I'm going to use my custom expression. And I can do it with creating structure or not. So I'm going to do it without creating the structure. So you see the movies over here. If I do it with creating structure, because I'm already in the media folder and the movie space 2 subfolder, it's just going to create structure in the folder I'm in. So it creates the proper movie name for the folder and adds the tmdb ID number, and then it creates the proper file name that's all the same, and then it adds media characteristics. And because these are dummy files, they're only 1440p, they're not 5.1 channel audio or anything. But this is how I rename my media. And my custom expression also looks for embedded subtitles. It will add ENGSUB, all caps, in a separate set of brackets at the end. Mine will automatically determine the language of any external subtitles in the SRT format. What else does my expression do? Oh, my expression also looks for custom edition of movies. If Braveheart had a custom edition called the Director's Cut, and I happen to have that rip of the movie, Filebot would discover it, and it will add the edition part to the file name also. So I'm not using my own custom expression. It does too much. I've worked too long to get it that way. So now let's actually rename with Filebot's new default expression that creates structure. Now remember, because I already have custom expressions, I have to hold down the Shift key when I hit the preset option. And if I choose Organize Movies for Plex, you see how it's creating the media folder? We're already in it. And then it wants to create a movies folder, and then it creates the movie folder name and the episode name. So I'll just let it rename things, and they're no longer in this folder, but surprise, surprise, they're in this folder. And again, Tom, if you rename your media folder media just like this, and rename your movie folder just like this, Filebot will do everything. Now, this won't work with sort library folders, so I'd still use a custom expression instead. But if you're not interested in sort library folders like I explained at the beginning of the video, just a default Filebot install for, like, I don't know what it is, $6 a year, you can rename your media quickly just like I did here. So now all that's left is to copy it to our test movie library. And again, it copies across the NAS really fast. And this time, so we can see it, we're going to go into the test folder, and we're going to see how fast these scan in. Boom, they're there. Tiny files scanned quickly. But we've got a mistake someplace. Oh, I see the mistake. I used Filebot too quickly, and it renamed a movie wrong. So I love making mistakes on my own videos because it shows people what they have to do. So my small 60-year-old brain that's still shrinking can't even remember what movie this was without referencing Tom's screenshot. That should bring it back. Alien, Avatar. Oh, it's got to be 2012, right? Filebot screwed up 2012. Well, that wasn't too hard to figure out. So I can fix it. Well, I can't fix it yet. I need my trusty database. So let's turn it loose on Filebot one more time because it'll work on a Synology NAS 2. We'll use the same expression again. Well, this time it got it right. I'll have to replay the video when I'm done to see if it's even the right movie, but it might not be bad to work in batches of 10 movies at a time. Take a screenshot before you actually run Filebot, just in case you miss something like I just did. Well, my mistake. I need to refresh the NAS first, I think. Oh, this is not going to rename properly because it wants to create structure and it's already in structure. So let me use my custom expression. Let's see, that might have bungled it a little bit. No, well, I have to refresh first. Oh, so that handled it. And we'll bring the Plex server back and we'll scan one more time and we'll find out that mistakes are easily fixed. So Tom, seeing this is your first server, I know this video is getting long. If you want to customize things, say you have a 4K library and you've ripped a 4K version of Alien. I just hit the pencil icon. When you hover over the posters, I hit the pencil icon and I'm going to click on posters, and there's even a 4K poster someplace that you can switch to as easily as that. Say you wanted your own favorite or your own custom collection of Tom's favorites. Say this movie's your favorite and that movie's your favorite. See how I can highlight them? And actually, after you highlight the first one, you can just touch anywhere on the poster to highlight the rest. Well, I've got these two highlighted. I can hit the pencil icon again and hit tags, drop down to collections, and type Tom's faves. Hit save changes, and if I refresh, well, I should have got a collection. Nope, I screwed it up. Again, it's good to mess up. My main server went offline. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, so Tom's faves. Again, I hit save without clicking the add. Now I hit save changes. If I go back in and check, it's stuck. And now refreshing will bring up the new collection tag. And even a collection, you can add a custom poster if you want to download one from the poster database or create your own. I create my own custom posters in GIMP. So let me check my notes. I think I covered everything I want to, and I think this will get Tom going to add his first library. And let me show Tom and anybody else one more thing that's new to Plex. You go back into the settings. This is what I do to help things, or help make it easier for my users. Okay, so we want manage libraries. And if I hover over this test movie library, I can edit the library from here, or I can choose manage recommendations. Now, I force this on my users' home screens. By default, recently released movies is not going to be on their home screens. So I check that on both these home and friends, and the recently added is. So, well, I don't have to show you the before and after. I'll just show you this. So, I don't think this feature has a save. I think we can just back out of it. So now on the recommended tab, nope, I didn't do it right. Well, I did do it right. Maybe I need to refresh. Well, this should add a recently released ribbon 2, and I don't know why it's not doing it. Isn't that a spoiler for the end of a good video? Well, Tom, maybe it'll work on yours. So anyway, hopefully you'll be able to get your movie library set. I highly recommend Filebot, but I'd use a few precautions.
YouTube.
And if you're interested, I'll send you my custom expression. Well, let's cover this right now, because I'm sure Filebot will interest you. If you want to create your own expression, let me open up my docs. It opened up off screen. Okay, so this is my different movie presets. We're just going to pick, we'll pick this one. Rename in the current location without creating structure. So I'm just going to copy all that. Click on preset, down at the bottom, choose edit preset, choose new preset, give it a name. I just want to remember to delete this one, so it's named movie to delete. And before you paste anything in, make sure you have the right data source. For a movie library we do, it says the movie. For a movie library we do not. This is using the movie database to name TV shows. We want to drop down and pick the movie database and then paste in the custom expression. Everything else is left the same, and now if I save the preset, well, I can't drop in something from my NAS. If I save the preset and open up one movie in Filebot, I can now choose that option, movie to delete, and it's going to name it slightly different. It's going to name it with the extra media characteristics like my convention uses. And if I pick rename and then refresh this browser window, you see the changes pick up. So in this video description, I'll add my custom expressions for both movies and TV shows. There'll be 2 movie expressions that One creates structure, one doesn't, and I don't know what I'll throw in for the TV expressions yet. I'm drawing a blank on that. So, hopefully this gets you going. If not, let me know in the group. Happy plexing.